welcome to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Hope you're doing well, man.
Can you guys ship me some of that Dreamland barbecue up here to Boston? I love this rib.
Absolutely. We'd love to be able to send you. I mean, what could you trade us, like something that's famous from Boston food?
Maybe a lobster roll.
Okay.
Nice big chunks of lobster and some mayonnaise. And it's pretty good. We do like cold water seafood, like oysters and lobsters. We do that pretty well.
Okay. Well, what if we sent you 3 slabs of ribs? Would you send us an offensive coordinator?
Well, I think whether I get the ribs or not, it sounds like you guys might get them. So.
Well, we certainly want to understand a lot about, I think we all need to first learn how to say his last name. I've heard it about a million ways here in the South. As you know, Ben, we sort of we cut people's names short. We pronounce it wrong. I mean, we got a Hawaiian guy down here now from Tua Tagovailoa, and we've heard his name a million ways. Won't you first help us out with saying the last name correctly, because we've been down here going run the ball. Now we don't think that's right, but help us with the last name. How do you correctly say it?
That's funny. It's Daboll.
Daboll. Okay.
Daboll. Emphasis on the first syllable, and it's like D-A-Y, Daboll.
Got it.
But I kind of like run the ball. That's pretty good.
Well, trust me, when you get rid of Lane Kiffin and you watch the way that he runs, we're all excited about any type of run the football. So that's just, you have to sort of just excuse us for a couple of minutes. But let me just start with asking you, what would he bring if he is the offensive coordinator for the University of Alabama?
Good experience. He's been an offensive coordinator several times now in the NFL. Cleveland, Miami, and Kansas City, I want to say. And I actually covered him in Miami for a year. And that was the year their starting quarterback, Chad Henne, went down with a season-ending shoulder injury in Week 4. And Matt Moore, who came off the bench this year, he came off the bench cold and started the last 12 games. And Matt Moore had a career year that year. I think he had 20 touchdowns and only 9 picks. And it was the 2011 Dolphins, and they were a terrible team. They started off 0-7. But if you dig deeper, Brian Daboll did a great job that year. They started 0-7, and the team could have just given up and completely just tanked it. And they went into Kansas City, a very tough place to play, Arrowhead Stadium, and whooped the Chiefs like 31-3. And then they had a little win streak going in the middle of the season, and there was a little bit of buzz that maybe it was enough to save the coaching staff's jobs, and ultimately it didn't. But Daboll got a nice year out of Matt Moore. I think if you go back and look at Cleveland, remember there was a year that Peyton Hillis, the running back, he went off and he landed a Madden cover because he had such a great year. I'm pretty sure Brian Daboll was the play caller for those Browns teams as well. So he has some experience calling plays and a bright football mind. Obviously, you guys know he got to start with Saban at Michigan State, but he's been in the Belichick Patriots program for a long time, kind of biding his time here, kind of rehabbing his image a little bit after some failed offensive coordinator stints. He's been coaching the tight ends, and I think was an assistant offensive line coach one year, but has learned from the best in Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels. And the recruiting aspect is going to be new to him, but as far as play calling and X's and O's, I think he'd be a really nice fit and a good hire for Alabama.
When you go back and you talked about the failed offensive coordinator stints, those are kind of scary terms. In the NFL, a little bit different than the college game, there's a lot of great coordinators that don't have success, but then they bounce back somewhere else and they do have success. Talk about that for a couple of minutes, because the parity in that league is so close around the 32 teams.
Well, in none of the places he went to did he have a quarterback. Cleveland, Miami, or Kansas City. And that is going to, you're a genius when you have the players and you're a bum when you don't. And I think Daboll did a pretty good job, all things considered. I mentioned that the year he was in Cleveland, he, I think, got like a 1,200-yard season or a bunch of touchdowns out of Peyton Hillis. The one year he was in Miami, the season did not start well for anyone on the coaching staff on the team, but they had a stretch in the middle of the year where they were putting up a lot of points, and he got a career year out of Matt Moore, a backup quarterback. Not just a career, a nice season. He was a pretty good NFL quarterback that year. So I just think he's been in a situation where he's been offensive coordinator for teams that haven't had a quarterback, and it's a lot harder to succeed, if Tom Brady's throwing the football. He's still a good young coach. Everyone raves about his energy, kind of a real extroverted guy, loud, kind of a prankster, slap you on the butt kind of guy. Like everyone, all the players really love Daboll. Brings a good energy to the field, and I think he's done a pretty good job in his career just with the cards that he's been dealt, and put him in a situation like at Alabama. I think he's a really good X's and O's coach who could do well there.
Ben, what are you hearing there? And we're talking to Ben Volin right now from the Boston Globe. What are you hearing from that side of the fence?
Not a whole lot. This is the Patriots, so they keep things very, very quiet.
Hey, we have something in common. It sounds like that's the same thing Nick Saban does as well. I mean, it's like lockdown here. You can get in the White House quicker than you can in the football building in Alabama.
Well, that's why I think Daboll would be a good fit. I mean, culturally, the Patriots and Alabama are very similar, I would say. And obviously, Saban coached for Belichick in Cleveland, 25 years ago. There's a lot of similarities between those two, so I think Daboll would fit in well with the culture. The Patriots, not hearing a whole lot from them. They won the Super Bowl, and they scatter pretty quickly. They're doing the, Belichick's playing golf at Pebble Beach, and Edelman's doing late night with Jimmy Fallon, so it's not like we get to see these guys too often. We'll see them again at the Combine in a couple of weeks, and that's when I'm sure Belichick or someone hopefully will talk about Brian Daboll leaving. But he was kind of viewed as the offensive coordinator in waiting here in New England, and Josh McDaniels just never left. McDaniels has been interviewing for jobs the last few years, but he is in a good spot here with the Patriots and coaching Tom Brady and winning championships, so he's only going to leave if the absolute perfect situation came up. It still hasn't yet, so he's happy sticking here with the Patriots as the offensive coordinator, and that means Brian Daboll, if he wants to spread his wings, he's going to have to look elsewhere. And frankly, I was surprised. He spent 4 years as a position coach. He's greatly overqualified for just being a tight ends coach. So I was surprised that he hung around this long. But it sounds like Alabama being the offensive coordinator.
Ben, I know it's a little bit different in the NFL. You're not as the access to information is not like it is when you're at a public school and you're covering them and they have to release the money. Well, what do you think Brian makes there at New England?
Yeah, total guessing at this point. Has to be in the six figures, $500,000. I'm sure they paid him more than a position coach just because of his experience in the Patriots system. He's been there. He started out there in the early 2000s when they were winning Super Bowls, and then he has offensive coordinator experience. So certainly he's making more than his typical tight ends coach. But whatever number I throw out there is, we don't even know how much Belichick makes. We all assume it's about $10 million a year, but could be more, could be less.
Right. Like I said, it's a lot different in the NFL where you don't have the access public school. You have to go through it, and they'll release the information at some point. Let me ask you about a couple different things. Dante Hightower, certainly a guy that we follow. How big of a priority is that for the Patriots to get him re-signed?
To me, he's got to be their number one priority. They have several free agents. Malcolm Butler, the cornerback, is also a high one, but he's only a restricted free agent, so the Patriots can match any offer out there, and there doesn't seem to be too much worry about Malcolm Butler leaving. But to me, Dante Hightower is a must re-sign. He's the captain of the defense, the guy who wears the green dot on his helmet. He's the communicator, calling the plays on the field, coordinating, getting guys lined up in the right position. He's a very good player. You can line him up at defensive end, inside linebacker, outside linebacker. He's not great in coverage, but really great against the run. We saw that against the Falcons. The Patriots, they made a slight adjustment. They moved Hightower to outside linebacker to help set the edge against the Falcons run game. And the Falcons running backs really slowed down after the Patriots made that adjustment. He's a really good pass rusher. We saw that on the game-changing play with the sack strip in the fourth quarter. And just how much he means to the defense as the captain and the emotional leader. They don't have an obvious replacement for him if he walks. They already traded away Jamie Collins. So to me, and I think to most people, that was a sign that the Patriots have chosen Hightower as the guy that they want to bring back and make the centerpiece of the defense. And they've paid guys in the past. They gave Gerard Mayo, who had the same role as Hightower, they gave him a huge contract back in 2010. So I think if they can't come to a deal, they franchise tag him and then try to work out a long-term deal. But I'd be surprised if they let Dante Hightower walk, because he's such an important piece of that defense.
What happened to Cyrus Jones this year? I mean, just a rough transition for him from the college to the NFL side.
It was. The Patriots are a very demanding organization, and Belichick is not afraid to sit you, and even if you're a second-round pick. And, it's a tough transition for rookies, certainly, and they tried him as a punt returner, see if he can contribute that way, and he just kept putting the ball on the ground and making bad decisions. He had like 5 fumbles on punt returns, which is just not going to cut it. And not only was he fumbling, but, made stupid plays where he gets too close to the ball when it's rolling, and he lets it bounce off his leg, and the other team recovers it for a fumble. And, you just got to get your head in the game. And I think there was a game against the Browns this year. He threw a punch and got ejected. So he's just an emotional young guy, and obviously very talented, or else they wouldn't have taken him in the second round. I still think they're counting on him to be a key piece next year, especially if they lose Logan Ryan to free agency, which is very possible. But, the Patriots are a very tough, demanding organization. They had so much depth, veteran depth in the secondary, that they could kind of afford to, maybe redshirt Cyrus Jones this year.
Hey, Ben, were you covering the Gators when Urban Meyer was there? I'm just curious.
I was. I covered the Tebow, Urban Meyer, when they won in 2008, and then when Bama beat them in the SEC championship game in 2009. So I did cover them for a couple of years.
I'm just curious, Ben. I've said this a ton, and I know you covered the NFL, but we talk a lot of SEC football here. You're a guy that graduated from the University of Florida there with your MBA, but I'd love to sort of get your thoughts on where we are right now with quality coaches. I mean, you go back to just a few years ago. Look at the brands. I'm talking about the head coaches in the Southeastern Conference, and then look at it today. There's a lot of inexperienced first-stop head coaches around the league. It's like Nick Saban's up here, and then everybody else is sort of working their way for that second-place spot.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that in the NFL, too. There's just like a dearth of like great coaching talent right now, and I don't know how to explain it. I still think there are a lot of, great young coaches who want to get into the game, but I know, like, with the Gators, I just follow them casually at this point. When they've needed to hire coaches, there's no home run out there like Urban Meyer. Right? I mean, Jim McElwain, nice hire from Colorado State, but he's not going to pull a bunch of top recruits just with his name alone. And, there hasn't been some great offensive innovation that we've seen in college football over the last few years. It just feels like the league is a little stagnant right now, and not too many great quarterbacks are being developed, and just coaching, as you said, the quality of coaches is just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's just, a random period right now, or if it's something that the coaching industry in general really needs to be aware of, because you see that in the NFL too. It's like Bill Belichick and then a bunch of other guys, and everyone's kind of interchangeable, and everyone square pegs fitting into square holes, I guess. And you're not seeing too many innovative guys, and not too many bright young coaches come out. So, yeah, I mean, Nick Saban, I wonder if he's getting bored down there, just, the way that he's winning so easily. I mean, I know you guys lost this time, but he's got such a machine going there, and there doesn't really seem to be any program that looks like it's going to be able to challenge him.
Yeah, we say that all the time, and I think Nick Saban at his best when he has a lot of great competition. Ben Volin right now for the Boston Globe. Final question. If Brian Daboll is the guy, give me a grade, A, B, C, D. If Alabama lands him, and I'm underlining if they get him, and right now the indication is that they will, but if they get him, what kind of grade would you put this on a hire?
I mean, probably a B+ or an A-. I think it's a solid hire. It's something that you could sell to recruits. Like, we got this NFL guy. He learned from Bill Belichick, and he worked with Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels for so many years. He has offensive coordinator experience. I don't think they're going to be touting his tenure with the Browns and the Dolphins and Chiefs too much. But like I said, I think he was the victim of bad circumstances, and I think actually did a pretty good job overall. Especially like in Miami, given the hand that he was dealt. The one thing I'd be concerned with is, I don't think he's been recruiting since maybe ever, maybe 1 year with Saban up in Michigan State. So, recruiting high school kids is a whole different animal. But, Nick Saban kind of has the whole recruiting thing covered. I don't think Brian Daboll has to worry too much about that. And I think it's going to be a solid hire, and add to the championship pedigree by hiring a guy from the Patriots program.